Welcome to this installment of Creative Cabin Fever. Today I have Claire Nolan on the show. She is known for being in Lipton Village and also local promotions. So Claire, introduce yourself to anyone who doesn't know you.
Well, that was a very good introduction. I am Claire Nolan. I'm mainly known for being the lead vocalist in Lipton Village and also co-founder of Local Productions that I started with my very, very best friend, Darren Sheridan. And yeah, like that's a very baby thing, and it's coming into fruition slowly but surely. You can find out more about that on localproductions.com. I won't talk too much about it today. But yeah, Lipton Village, that's my baby, that's my band. My boys, I miss them very much. And when you see this, boys, I miss you very, very much. We have been together for 2 years. Lipton Village, I would say, is primarily myself, Carlos, and Goose, and anybody else who wants to come and play with us. We have played with some amazing musicians, and at the moment we have Lee Murphy on guitar and Gavin Byrne on bass, and sometimes Chris Byrne on bass because Gavin is a highly demandable bass player and person in general. Lee, we actually borrowed from our brother band, Barry and the Great Brag, and kind of never gave him back. So now he's divided between the two of us. So, but he loves it. He thinks it's great because like they're releasing music now and it's going really well for them. And they taught us a lot. You know, we learned a lot from them. They're older than we are and they've been doing this a lot longer than we have. So we've kind of been able to turn to them when we're not really sure. And likewise, they've turned to us when they're not really sure because we've been doing more gigs in Dublin. So they'd be coming up now. Well, they were coming up to Dublin just before all of this hit and they were doing a few gigs up there. And it's nice to have that community of musicians together. And Lipton Village is where we have a big ethos towards that. Like the name itself comes from a fictional place in Ballymun where U2, Bono from U2, Gavin Friday and Googie, they were all like best friends, and Lipton Village was a make-believe place that they created where they could be completely and utterly weird, and just art and creativity and art and weirdness was just completely and utterly encouraged and was allowed to flourish, and everything else was just, that was weird. Normal was weird. And you know, Ireland in the 70s was a depressing place, and you know, right now the world is not that great. So we've kind of adopted that ethos, and it's become our safe space. Lipton Village is where we are free to be weird and be creative and come together as one to just be mad. We love it. But that's my intro.
Really good intro, and it's a really good way to give people an idea of what your band is about and why your name is your name and where it came from. Nobody else has really done that in the interviews to date, so that was very interesting for me to watch. Yeah, no one usually asks where the name comes from unless prompted. We just assume that everyone knows, oh yeah, this is why we're called this.
Yeah, no, for us it's a big thing too, because like I would say there was a documentary called Out of Ireland, and this is where I first heard about it. And it was actually my parents, after a few drinks that we were having together, were like, that'd be a great name for a band, like because of the ethos behind it. And I was a bit like, I don't know, like I don't know, like there has to, I don't know. And then we did one gig with Lipton Village, and like I think at the start of it I was like, we are Lipton Village. And I was like, yeah, that felt good, you know? And then the more I read into it and the more I learned where they came from with it, it was like, there couldn't have been another name. There could, like, it was the perfect description of what we want this to be. So, yeah.
That's amazing. So I was really curious myself, because obviously we only get to know each other through the internet. You reached out to me. Few people have, like, but a lot of the interviews are people I actually know or reached out to myself. So it's interesting being able to get to know you. And one of the things was, what have you been doing since lockdown began? Because I don't know you outside of lockdown, but I want to know you better within. And that's kind of what Creative Cabin Fever allows us to do, I guess.
That's, to be honest, I loved it when I saw it. And I know that I briefly said it to you earlier before we started doing this, but like, I love the idea that how we network now and how we are supposed to meet each other is changed. Like, we can't allow this time to stop us from meeting people that can still help us. Like, we still want to help other people. We still need help, you know, we still need to network and we still need to get out there. And Creative Cabin Fever is just, it's amazing. I'm really grateful to have met you, like, and to be speaking to you, and especially after our lovely little chat before this. But yeah, I'm doing a whole lot of nothing and a whole lot of everything. I like everybody else, I suppose. Like when lockdown first started, I really kind of put pressure on myself to pick up a guitar, to write songs, to do this, and I just couldn't do it. Like the boys in the band, they were amazing. Like Goose, our drummer, he was putting up drum covers. Like his girlfriend Cara, she does the videos for us and for him, and her edits and her shots are amazing. And the way she does things, she's an amazing brain. You want to kiss it. And Carlos, he is the synth player, but he produces all of his own solo stuff. So he straight away nearly threw a song together and had that up within like the first 2 weeks of us being in lockdown. And I was just like, what? Like, how are you doing this? I didn't know how to be creative without them. You know, I just think that they're so talented that I tend to rely on them more than not. They know what I mean when I say this, but more than I need to. Like, and they have always been trying to encourage me to kind of go back and pick up an instrument and be my own artist as well as part of Lipton Village. And it's something that now I have been doing. I feel like when we come back together, I'm more valuable than I'll ever be. But other than that, when I wasn't able to do music, I literally baked. I painted stuff. I like upcycled jackets. I did anything I could to be creative, and it was a different kind of creativity that I'd never really explored before. But it was because I had this list of things that I don't like, of the world's longest fingers that I just kept putting off. I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that someday. And then I don't know, it was like I just went, like with all of this, I just went, okay, well, I'm not going to pick up a guitar. That's shit. I'm shit. So guess I'll bake that bread that I was thinking about, you know? Like I just made smaller tasks, and gradually I naturally just kind of went back. I actually went back to the ukulele, which was, I think, probably to take a bit of pressure off myself. I was like, I already know how I play guitar, and I already know I don't feel comfortable doing this. So maybe I'll go a different route. And I've just had so much fun with it. I just think it's such a beautiful instrument, you know, and it was actually the first instrument I ever bought myself. And I put it down and that was it for like 10 years. Like, what? Who does that? Until this. And now I just think it's wonderful. So to answer that question long-windedly, I've baked, I have sewn, and I play the ukulele now.
I was talking to a friend of mine. We know each other since we're 14, but we're only starting to get to know each other now, which is very strange. We met again 3 years ago by accident in the pub, and we kind of added each other on Facebook. And little by little, we've been talking. She's a really powerful person. She's really important to me, and she's really been helping me incredibly in these times. But I was talking about how I want to rediscover music, and I was like, maybe I'll go back to the bass. And she was like, nah, don't do it, because you have a past attachment to failing at the bass. What you need to do
Yeah,
now is pick up a brand new instrument. So on the way to me now is one of those steel tongue drums, because I've always wanted one. So I went and I bought one,
amazing.
and I'm going to hopefully create completely random new noise with my son, who's obsessed with drumming. And it's going to be a beautiful rediscovery of music, and maybe a brand new thing for me to do that's not going to be covered in past stress of like, I don't like the bass anymore, go away. Here's a new
Yeah,
thing.
like an absolutely new association where it's like, yeah, oh, that is such good advice. I need to meet this friend.
Oh, she's amazing. I'm hoping
It's
to do
so
it.
important to have people like that, especially now, you know, like it really is. That's lovely. I'm going to remember that past attachment to failure. That's actually the way that I felt. Like I just felt like if I picked it up, I was going to get annoyed at it.
Yeah, and until she said it to me, I was like, ah, it's going to be fine. But it turns out she's completely 100% right. And she usually is.
I hate that. Usually your friends are like, especially when you don't want them to be. Well,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to you having a steel drum. I think as well, like with drums, you get to like expel the demons a little bit and just like let that anger out of you, you know, just really be into it. Get to know yourself on a tribal level, isn't that it?
Yeah, that resonance and that vibrational change that is just so embedded in us. And yeah,
And
tribal and
probably more needed now than ever.
yes.
Yeah, reconnect with that like sense of like, well, I won't say dancing naked under the full moon, but like close to that. Why not? I'm not going to judge. If that's that's what you want to do, walk away. It's been a while myself.
Yeah, no, it's been quite some time for me too, but that's life gets in the way. I mean, now
Yeah.
if I do it, it's in my back garden. No one can really see me, so.
I'm like, the last time I did it, I was arrested, told that wasn't appropriate. No. Oh. But yeah, so, but I've other little projects too that, like, I want to paint a birdhouse. That's just outside of music. Like, I have a little birdhouse that I got for my birthday last year with the spray paint. It was supposed to be a project that I did last year that I've still not done, and it's sitting on my windowsill now with the paint beside it. And I'm like, okay, it's been over a year since you got this. You need to paint the birdhouse. But I don't know. I feel like we'll be out of lockdown and I'll still be looking at that birdhouse, like wishing that I was doing it.
It's probably nice to have something as an end goal. It's like, well, by the time I get the birdhouse done, I know we're definitely getting out of lockdown. And if you do it too soon, then you've nothing to aim for. So maybe that's what you're doing without you knowing.
I did that a little bit with my room, where I was like, I have 3 weeks to sort out my room. It'd be grand. And then I woke up and I went, I can't live like this. The chaos, the chaos. And I had to just go and organize every bit of it. So now the last thing I have to do is the birdhouse, like you said. Yeah, that's the one that's on the longest finger.
The question I usually ask any artist I interview is the first song you fell in love with. And I've been finding it a really interesting question because people perceive the question differently. So the question is the question. How you answer it is completely up to you, Claire.
That's so funny because it was the only one that I kind of was like, how do I answer this? I was like, there's songs that I've fallen in love to, like, like that. Really, I'm a real lyric person. I adore songs. I know some people who can tell you everything about a band, but I might not even be able to tell you the name of the band that plays my favorite song at times, but I love lyrics. I like things that say the things that I don't know how to say. Like when I hear it and I go, oh my God, that's exactly how I wanted to say it at that moment. But like there's so many like that, but there was one that I ended up coming back to because it was the first time that a song made me listen to it for a story, and the music and the melodies kind of guided along with the lyrics to feel a certain way. And it was the Frames' Angel at My Table. And the Frames was actually the first gig I ever went to, and I went with my dad, and it was in the Point like donkeys years ago. And I just thought it was the most amazing thing in the world. But that specific song, like, I can't remember. See, again, I'm terrible with albums, like, but it's on one of their albums, and they don't really play it all of the time. But I just think the words of it were just so resonant. Like, there's an angel on my shoulder, and she's telling me, or she's so beautiful, and I should go up there and hold her. But there's a devil on my shoulder, and like it's this conversation, this internal turmoil. Like, do you go to this person? And it's like, will you be my anchor when there's no one around to hold me down? Like, will you be my anchor? I know you're not the answer. And it's like looking for the wrong person to tether you to where you're supposed to be. And this was before I even understood what it was like to fall in love with somebody. This was when I was a child. Like, and there was just something fascinating about the duality in that song that really got to me. And I remember that sticking with me. And it was the one song off of that album that I just sunk into. It was like, this is the one. Like, and so that was probably the first song that really, really resonated. People think I'm weird when I say the Frames as well. Like, I
No,
feel like
I
weird.
completely get it. There's a lot of Frame songs that hold incredible meaning for me. And what you were saying there about lyrics being really important. Fiona Apple released her first album in 8 years. It came out today. And I spent 4 hours before talking to you losing myself in Fiona Apple. I like to see her as like my best friend. It's really hard to explain. She has this
I
way
get
with
that.
words and unfiltered emotion that allows you to actually kind of encompass a song and get rid of all that, like all that sadness, all that loss, all that unfilterable emotion that you otherwise probably couldn't put to words. Fiona Apple manages to just put it into a song and you're like, oh. So I was a bit
Yeah.
worried. I was like, oh crap, what if it's not a good album? But it's an amazing album.
Like it's just like, it's again, like you said, you like to think of her like your best friend. So it is like your best friend putting out an album and you're like, oh my God, what shit. But I saw that. I actually saw your post. It was like completely lost in my own being to this album right now, and it made me actually save Fiona Apple down in my phone for later, because I've not heard of her. But I like when people feel so intensely about music that they feel the need to, when they're sharing it, not just share it, but to tell you why they are. You know, like I'm the biggest devil for on the run sharing, where I'll share without putting a comment up because I still think you need to see this album, or I still think you need to see the band. But when I really take the time to sit and write something, it's because it's meaningful. And you could tell with you writing that about her, it was like, this is an album I need to pay attention to.
Yeah, so like her past work, since you're not familiar with it, is the same. Like she's very raw in her emotion. Everything is pretty much about broken relationships and loss. Like some of it is about manipulation and like just really, really hard emotions to encompass. And somehow she manages to do it. And she wouldn't be perceived as particularly talented musician. Like it's not even, her voice is very different, but it's not even because it's a great voice. It's because of the way she carries herself with so much
Because it's
strength
hers,
and
yeah.
power. As you discover her, I want to continue conversations with you over the spell of time to see if you
I
feel the
love
same way I do about Fiona Apple.
it. Oh my God, no, now it's like, oh my God, what if I hate her? And I'm the one going, shit. I know.
I know our friendship depends on a common goal and love of Fiona Apple.
It's like for the next 10 years, I'll just lie about my love for Fiona Apple, and then it'll come out like it's some like drunken thing. It'll be like, I actually never even listened to that album.
No,
I wouldn't do it to you.
no, I really think if you don't like the music, because you mentioned that lyrics are what matter to you as a woman, Fiona Apple is exactly the thing we all need, actually. I have yet to meet anyone who didn't understand what she was trying to do. Maybe they didn't like it, but they understood it because there's just,
Yeah.
yeah. Wait till you hear it. I'm very excited for you to discover it, actually. I
I'm
wish.
gonna have to. I'm gonna have to plug it in there, give it a whack. Like, actually, I have a song for you just when you were saying about power. Have you ever heard of LP?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lost on You. That song, she does this live version of it with the little whistle. And my God, like that's my version. I don't care about the actual version of it. I do not care about the release version. Her live version of that song. Oh, there is angst, anger, and passion in that I've never seen in a person before. And like that, her voice is just so distinct. Love her. Absolutely love her.
Yeah, I
So
agree. I love that particular version. It was actually the first version that was shown to me by a friend at a session. Do you know the way one of the great things
me
about
too.
you're at a session, let's share
Yeah.
music. Well, that's the only reason I'm here, lads. I don't actually want to hear about your day. Like,
Why are you here?
I'm here for the gift of music. That's all I'm about is sharing music. That's it. Like, so yeah, that's how
And
I
it's
heard it.
just, it's so simple. It is that simple, isn't it? And people tend to not see it as that base level. Like some people, I find, like when you're sharing music, I've seen people read so much into that, and you're kind of standing there going, no, I just thought it was a good album, like, or no, I just really really liked that song, or especially when you're in the small music scene, when there's bands that you know on a personal level and you're all on the same level, and then you start to share because you just want to promote your friends and you want to promote people, and you find really quickly like that, like for some people they don't like it's like they don't want you to share their work. Like some people like take it nearly as an offense when you do it, and I'm like, please share me everywhere. Like throw me at the wall so I'll stick to somebody, you know what I mean? Someone will like what I do, but if they don't, fine. Like I'm not asking you to like me, I'm just trying to do what I like to do.
Yeah, I'd be the same. I try to share everyone. Like, I'd say I drive people mad, like, because there's people who are just not receptive to you sharing stuff. They don't really care about
Yeah.
the things you care about, and that's fine.
Yeah, I know. And sometimes I feel like I'm a walking advert on Facebook. If you just go to my timeline, it's just like, if If you're looking for new music, just scroll through my timeline. God only knows. And it's such a wide mix of different things, but it's all local artists too, because I'm a big supporter of the local music scene. It's a very difficult industry, and I think, like I said before, it's like a community where I'm from. So it's nice to consider it a community wherever you go. Like, I'm nice to everybody who's nice to me, you know, and I'm nice to people who aren't necessarily nice to me either. Like,
I
I
feel
just
you.
think it's such a short life, and it's such a wonderful thing that we do, so you have to enjoy it.
And you're right, by sharing it, there's bound to be at least one person out there who completely resonates with it or who it means something to, you know, like you're not going to please everyone and you're not going to make everyone happy. And that's just, we all want to be people pleasers, or well, most of us, some of us don't really care, you know.
Oh, I'm definitely, I'm caught between both. Like, I definitely want to be a people pleaser, and I want to see people happy, but then I'm also incredibly selfish and want to do what I want to do. So I battle internally with the guilt that follows that. You know, it's like when you do something that you choose and want, and you're doing it for no other reason than your own wants, I find that a lot of the time that's immediately followed up with an immense guilt that you did that thing solely for yourself. And I don't know when that became such a bad thing. Like, especially being in lockdown, I found like that the best thing that I've been able to do is help myself, like, is to literally look after myself, so that when my friends or people that I love need me, I'm able to be there. Because otherwise, like, if I can't help myself, how am I supposed to help anybody else? Do you know what I mean? And like, I found that there was one sentence that was like said recently that really resonated with me, and it's like, be careful not to be helping others help you. And that's where we end up kind of going in these circumstances, is like, oh well, I'm not trying to be a dickhead, I'm just trying to explain. And it's like, yeah, but you're trying to explain yourself so I can understand, so that I can help you, and right now I can't help myself. Like, sometimes all people need is to just sit there and be told, yeah, it's shit, yeah, it's really hard right now, yeah, absolutely, like, you are totally and utterly well within your right to feel so miserable. And sometimes that is all they need, like, just for you to be supportive, to not offer solutions or offer different ways that you think they should be so that they can be happy. Like I find that sometimes people, and I mean within reason, sometimes people need to like wallow in their own self-pity for like a day and be like, I'm gonna take this day to sit in this bed and do nothing, but then tomorrow, so help me God, I'm gonna get up and attack the day. And the next day you get up and you feel a bit shit, but you told yourself you were going to get up and attack the day, so you just do it. You know what I mean? It's a constant fucking struggle, but when you do it, you learn how to keep going. And you might trip up and you might fall into the little rabbit hole of feeling shit about yourself, but you slowly but surely, it gets shorter, the period of time that you spend in the hole, you know. And that's the goal for me. I think, like, you can't deny the hole exists, but you have to have a quick route out, because if you spend too much time down there, it'll just fill in.
And it gets really comfortable as well.
So comfortable, and that's the thing. I always say it, like, I actually sometimes I'm happy being miserable. It's easier for me sometimes to just wrap up in a duvet and be like, no, you don't understand, you don't get how I feel, like, you know, but uh, I like a challenge, so it might be easier, but we'll just keep attacking the day as it goes on, like. And you know, everybody's talking about May 5th and when we get out of here again, and it's like, but it's not going to be a quick, you know, quick turnaround either. Like, and I think especially for we were talking about this before, but for creative people who, like, I can't wait to get on stage and perform again. And there's certain aspects of me that were really insecure that I feel like I'll be able to stand up and be like, this is who I am, and sorry about you, if you laugh, you laugh. You know what I mean? And I think that as a collective, all of the creative musicians and all of the creative people, we should all be visualizing that day where we can be at a gig, and when we are standing on stage, and when it is jam packed, and when you are telling the person to your right to get off you, you know, like, visualize that gig and picture yourself there, because if we can all see it, we can all make it happen again, you know. And again, it comes back to admitting the hole is there. The fear is there. Yeah, it might not be the same, but we'll find a way to make it just as good, if not better, because there has to be better than this, you know?
Yeah, I agree completely. It's like, if we can't picture it, like, we can't really get back to it. And because everything is so uncertain, and because none of us really know, even just the idea that we'll get it back, that positive reaffirmation that not everything is lost and we still have everything, that's kind of enough.
Yeah, yeah, like it is, and yeah, it is. Now, in fairness, it is, because especially when I'm talking to somebody like you, like we've said, we've only met through this, and you are so similar. The way that you think about the music scene and the way that you want things to be and the way that you foresee us coming back after this, it's so positive, because I only met you through this lockdown. Like I'm only having this conversation because I wasn't able to leave my house. I'd like to believe that in the circles that we're in, we would have crossed paths anyway, but everything happens for a reason. And now I get to have a lovely conversation with somebody who's like-minded and somebody who thinks the way I think. And like, that's a positive in itself, you know? And I think those things like this that are existing right now, like the live streams that we were saying people are sick of, like these right now are the new way of networking. It is the only way that we can keep ourselves going and out there right now, and meeting new people in the industry and explaining that, you know, while Lipton Village isn't releasing music, we're still here, we're still working, you know, like we still want to be heard. And it's not because we've chosen to do nothing. We physically can't. Like we spent like 2 years, I think I said this at the beginning, but we spent 2 years honing our sound and getting to where we wanted to be, to a point where we were then in the studio recording an album and really preparing for the next year, you know, of what we were going to do. And I've always said plans are probably the worst thing that you can do, because then you end up with an expectation. But we had a plan that didn't go the way that we thought it was going to go. And we've had to adapt and we've had to become innovative. And it's the same with you. Like, you're a promotional company and you've adapted and you're doing this. And everybody in the industry needs to start seeing these things as positive little insights as to how we'll probably do business the next few months, years, maybe. We don't know, but we have to have that foresight and continue to put ourselves out there and continue to make fools of ourselves and find ways of, you know, connecting with people we've never connected before. And hope to God that, like, at the end of it, we come out with a few new connections and a few people that are like, oh, this is what you were talking about all those months ago. This is the album we've been waiting for. You know, if we can keep the conversation going, then these musicians that have so much fear that their moment is gone might not have that fear anymore. Like, your moment is your moment. You can make it wherever you want it. You just have to keep going. So thank you again for, like, the platform to be able to do that, like, to be able to, for especially a local band who's quite, like, small and our following is quite small, to be able to come out and talk and say, this is what I do, I love doing what I do, we're so close. You know.
Yeah, it's crazy, like, and that's possibly why it came to me, because I was just like, just about to rebrand, and my company, my business partner had just given me the company, and I was like, okay, what do I do? How do I stay relevant? And I was like, well, there's so many creative types out there, and no one's really encapsulating their magic, or no one's really taking this moment in time and going, well, it's actually kind of weirdly beautiful. Can we see the positives in this? And then the idea kind of started, like, By Curious put up this post about wanting to capture sound bites of everyone's experience in this time, and I reached out to them first. But I'd already spoken to a French band that I'm supposed to be organizing an Irish tour for, so I had the French interview, and then I had By Curious's interview, and then from that interview, someone reached out to me and offered me graphic design services to help me in my time, because they understood that I had very little money. And I was like, okay, well, I don't really need posters for gigs, but maybe we can make something a creative cabin fever, because that's kind of an idea I feel is relevant. And then that's how it happened. And then before I knew what had happened, people like you are reaching out to me, local people that I really, really think are special, and I want to show the world how special they are. They agreed to do it. Like, I got to, like, interview one of my childhood heroes, like Roddy Clear. He's a massive DJ. Like, he is basically the sound of the Southeast. And he was like, no, I'd love to do an interview. And he spoke to me for an hour and a half about things he'd never really openly spoken to anyone about. And I was like, okay, maybe there's a thing here. And that's what it is. But it was a completely accidental reinventing of self and time. And it's something I'm growing with a lot. Like, every episode I seem to learn something new about myself, not only about the people I'm interviewing. And I was doing 3 a night at one point to try and use my time really well. But the problem with that is I give a lot to the interviews and I take them really seriously. So I was getting dangerously close to burning out to keep other people warm. And that's something that I struggle with anyway, because I'm that person who just wants to help everyone all the time. So I was like, nah, cool it down for a while. There's time.
Yeah. And it's like it comes back to that, like you have to help you before you can help anybody else. Like, and it seems again, it every time you think it sounds so selfish. Every time I say it, I feel like, sorry, there's a certain level of selfishness when I say it, but it's never intended that way. It's kind of the whole God, she loves herself is an insult. You know, like what's so wrong with loving yourself? What's so wrong with loving what you do, wanting to put yourself out there, wanting to show people that you feel passionate about something, that you feel strongly towards who you are and what you want, you know, and sometimes that it's nearly the louder your voice gets, the more people want you to quiet down. And I think that that's when you know you're onto a good thing. I think when you're using your voice and people are trying to stifle it, it's because generally they're intimidated by what you're saying, either because there's truth in it or because they wish they were as open. Like I find, like I'm surrounded by people who have very strong beliefs about certain things, and I'm not that I'm fickle, but I'm of the opinion that if I can't hold it in my hands or see it with my own eyes, then I'm open to anybody's belief. And I find that being around people that are so passionate about what they believe in can be incredibly intimidating, because you wish that you could be that passionate about what you believe in. So I'm always of the opinion that when that negativity comes with your voice getting too loud or whatever, that's because people are intimidated by it. And if you're burning out because you're giving too much to other people, it's because you're a good person, and it means that it is that time to turn inward and look after yourself. You know, that's you telling you that you need you now. Everybody else can come later. And it's not because you're selfish, it's because you literally have 1 bar of energy for yourself and 1 bar of energy for everyone else. And when that's gone, like, you need to fill it back up. But
Yeah.
it's, I think as well, because you love what you do, and you can tell that you love what you do. Like it was, I think that you're probably the type of person to just keep going because it makes you feel happy too. That even like, but I could do gigs every night of the week, but it doesn't mean at the end of the week I won't be exhausted. You know what I mean? So
That's it. There's a powerful, powerful energy in doing something you love and loving what you do. There is, but there is a line that we all need to harness and tread carefully, you know, because there is only so much energy in all of us, and we need to kind of, this time is perfect actually, because it allows us to refocus on what we actually want and what we don't want. It allows us to see the positives and negatives in life before, so that when we refocus all our energy for the future, we can hopefully try and envision the most positive route to do the positive things and kind of step aside the more negative things.
yeah, and as long as we can bring that into the future. Have I lost you?
Yeah,
Oh,
you
there
did
you
for a
are.
second.
You
It's
froze there.
okay.
Sorry, but as long as we can bring that level of um, yeah, pretty much, yeah. As long as we can bring that level of self-realization with us into the other side, like, because I find that people are very compassionate right now, and I see a lot of like altruism going on in small towns and people, the communities coming together. There's a lot of positives in that too, and I'm the person that wants to believe that that continues on the other side, that people don't forget, you know, that you can still be there for one another. Just because the pandemic or the panic is over doesn't mean that you can't still help each other. You know, I'd like to think that we've learned and that we can continue with that, rather than it being straight back to normal and I've forgotten all of my manners. Do you know what I mean? Like, but that's because I've learned so much about myself, and I hope that on the other side of this, like, I can continue to feel as strongly in myself, because it's only like it is only from turning inward that you can find that inner strength. And again, I don't doubt that there'll be really, like, it's an up and down kind of thing like that. Like I said before, it just gets shorter being in the hole because you find your inner strength. So
Yeah,
I just
I
feel like
agree.
I've gone off on so many tangents, like just like la la la. It's the coffee.
I love the mug, by the way. It's great to have someone else actually use a mug as a prop. I'm using my Buffy one today.
Oh, I love it. No, I was saying that your shit happens when definitely. Your shit happens one was the one that inspired this. Cheers.
Yeah.
This
I
is my biggest mug as well, so it's definitely half like coffee. So that's it. No.
But the tangents are important, Claire, because the tangents are who you are. Most interviews, how they happen is here's set questions, answer them very, very strict, very, very this way. Whereas I think what I'm doing at the moment is appealing to people, or I hope is appealing to people, because it's not actually about me. It's about the person I'm speaking to and how they feel and what they want to spread and the magic that they possess, because that's ultimately all I'm here to show people, is showcase what's truly different and beautiful about you, because every single one of us is magic.
That's such a lovely message. I think it's just because I'm conscious that now everybody be a lot more aware of how my brain jumps very much between things, that I have no filter between my head and my mouth. What I'm thinking is generally what I'm speaking. So if you're ever in doubt of what I really think of you, it's probably what I'm saying to you.
I am a very similar person. I do believe we met for a reason.
Timing is everything.
Yeah, it is. Good and bad, but yeah, it is.
I feel like I should be addressing that the cough is not COVID-19. Definitely not. I am okay. But just in case, like I can just see a comment going up being like, "Should you get that checked?" It's fine. I'm okay.
No, we're both smokers. That's all that's going on
Yeah,
there.
it's like that. Exactly. I know what that cough is.
It's cool. Um, I'm always curious about, especially with musicians, because I'm not a performer myself, but I do communicate through music. And one of the most powerful things I kind of compiled was the soundtrack of my life. And I'm always interested, do other people think that way? Like, do you look at your life and go, oh, that was the soundtrack of my life?
Do you know that I find that like over the course of my 28 years on the planet, like the soundtrack has probably created itself. Like I have very, very strong memories associated to very, very different songs. Like, and it's not so much that there's one definitive album that I would say this is the soundtrack of my life, but I could put that album together very, very quickly. Like there are songs that stick out for a number of different reasons, songs that are about family members, songs for old relationships, songs for old friendships, and it would be a very eclectic album, let's just say that, and one that would be equal parts sad and equal parts happy, and you'd probably be just getting over the slow sad song when the next one would be like, I don't know, Summer Jam. Do you know, like, this ain't nothing but a summer jam. Like that to Damien Rice Cannonball, it's a very, very eclectic mix of things. But again, no, I wouldn't have one definitive album. There's a few heavy hitting songs, so.
Yeah, I'm the same. Mine starts off with Pavarotti and bread and brings you into like Thumper.
I love it. I know. I used to have this iPod that was pretty much that. Like you'd be listening to the Gypsy Kings, and then it would go into Metallica, and then it could go into Pink Floyd, back to Britney. ABBA could be in there at one point, but I think it's all music is important. Like you can't kind of have that one genre or that one thing, because life isn't just that one genre or that one thing. And I think that every genre of music right now is very fluid, because everybody's taken from everybody else's genres. Country music is in pop music. There's like rock music in dance music, so to try and say like, oh, you only listen to pop music, or you only listen to this, or I only ever listen to death metal. It's like, well, when you look at it, you kind of don't, you know what I mean? And you shouldn't limit yourself to those things, because everything has its thing to give you. It's like you said, there's magic in everything. So I always think just listen to all the albums. Don't care if someone's laughing at you. Don't care if somebody tells you it's lame or it's this, that, and the other. If you like it, listen to it. Because you can guarantee you those people are listening to it behind closed doors anyway.
That's the thing. There's no such thing as a guilty pleasure. There's just pleasure. Like anyone who makes it seem like you
Yeah.
should be ashamed is just. Speaking of listening to, who are you listening to right now? Who should I be listening to that I may not be paying attention to?
I am definitely biased, but Bardi and the Great Brag, I highly recommend them. They just released their new single today, actually, called Let It Rain, with a lovely, lovely girl, Adele Mack. She does backing vocals on it as well. Again, told you, it's a community. But they are the loveliest bunch of lads, and I've had the pleasure of kind of being behind the scenes and seeing what they're up to and where they're going. And again, that's another band that are going to do things and go places. You know, especially when this is all lifted and we can all go places, you will hear these names. But Barty and the Great Bride, yeah, definitely them. And I already said LP, I really like her.
Yeah, I agree. LP is brilliant, and I have never heard of Barney and the Great Brag, so we're going to have to put that on. What I tend to do is
Absolutely.
share, like, so I'll do a Spotify song and I'll put it on the Viking Promotions Instagram, and I'll put Lipton Village recommend and then tag the other band, and then there's a cross share and a community still happening where people are still networking just in an unusual
Amazing.
way.
Amazing. I like that a lot. Yeah.
That interconnectivity of songs, and what I found really interesting was your most recent Cranberry cover. So do you want to talk to me about that?
Yeah. Well, Dolores O'Riordan is a huge influence of mine. Like, to be honest, I love Irish music, and it's not just an Irish. Well, maybe it is just because I'm Irish that I won't rule that out. But I really, really think that there's something beautiful about Irish artists, and there was just something magical about her. And for the longest time, I wanted to kind of do a tribute to her, but I really wanted to do that song, and it was one of the hardest covers that I probably ever had to learn. And it's not because it's a difficult song to play, but because of the content of the song. And knowing now what we know, and because it was the final album, it's a really kind of bittersweet song to learn. But with the way that I was kind of feeling that day, it just felt really like, okay, this is day, so let's put this cover together. And I really didn't know that I was going to post it, or I would have, like, I don't know, put shoes on and not had dirty feet, and I don't know, but it just, that was how I felt. And because I hadn't done anything really musical, I wanted to take a video for myself, more so to mark that I had been productive musically, rather than just let another day go distracting myself from what I was supposed to do. And like I said, the boys had been amazing, and that was my little swan song. And I think I kind of did it for them too, to be like, I'm okay. But yeah, like, the response to it was lovely. And for somebody who fronts a band, and I would say very confidently when I'm on stage, I'm actually not all that confident. I'm not, like, but I'm learning how to be that way. And I'm fortunate because I'm surrounded by a bunch of lads that just make me feel like I'm invincible. And I think that, like, I now feel like when I'm not with them, I'm invincible. You know, I'm trying to cross purpose their belief in me. But that cover was something that meant a lot to me, and I was kind of grateful with the response for it. I was raging that I didn't have the memory for the end of it, because my voice got stronger as that went on, and I felt that. But I'll take what I'm given, and I'll be grateful. But it was not being able to perform right now, I think, is difficult for most artists, and it was just my way of kind of, again, saying I'm still here, you know.
And I think you did it really beautifully. And I actually think that you releasing it the way it was unaltered was actually probably what made it so powerful, because here I am, this is who I am, dirty feet and all. Who gives a crap? This is me taking up space, which brings us to my next question, because I find it particularly difficult myself. Do you find it difficult to take up space in the music industry as a woman? Like, or what's kind of your perception on how we're perceived, and yeah.
Well, my first instinct for that question was genuinely like, I better be careful how I answer this. I don't want to come across the wrong way. I don't want to be too shrill. I don't want to seem too feminist or too anti-feminist. And then I realized that that was the answer to the question. So, like, I very much have, like, my experience with that, with being a woman in the industry, is very limited. And I find that the more I become aware, the more that I'm aware I have probably put up with a lot more misogyny than I think. Again, I'm fortunate because I'm surrounded by a bunch of men who make me feel like I'm the strongest person in the room and that I am invincible. But the people we tend to meet probably don't see it that way. Like, I find sometimes in circumstances where I could ask for things that I needed sound wise, even, you know, simple things, that if I'm asking somebody, I come across as either a diva or like I don't know. I really don't know if it's just me, because I can be quite like blunt. Do you know what I mean? I could have that tone of like, do this, but I find that the lads can be like, do this, and it's just done. Whereas I get the look. They're like, all right, who do you think you are telling me what to do? And it's like, I'm not. I'm just trying to get where I need to be and ask for what I need to ask for. Again, I'm here because I'm at work. This is my job. You know, I've also been in situations where promoters have asked me which of the band members I'm dating. I will put it politely. Which, as if that's relevant, like, you know, as if that means anything to what I'm doing or where I'm going. And I know I understand that at times it's done with a sense of humor to try and make you feel at ease, but at the same time, you wouldn't say that and have not said it to any of the male artists who've come in here. And I'm like, how do you know? Like, I'm not to question anybody's like anything, but like, how do you know about their sexuality? You could have a whole male band in there, and I don't see you asking the lead singer if he's dating any of the others. And that to me is where the double standard comes in, as if I couldn't have 4 members of a band of the opposite sex without one of them. And I've been in many bands and in many lineups with different, you know, different musicians playing with us, and it's irrelevant. It's so irrelevant. Like, and it makes you feel so small, like so small. And you laugh it off and you understand to a point and you let it go, but it stays with you. You know, you remember it, and you don't really think about it as anything other than a joke until you're kind of on your own on the other side and kind of go, wait a second, like, was that okay? Like, I find that being a woman in the industry is generally a lot of questions that I ask afterwards, like being a woman in general, to be honest. But it is a case that sometimes you leave a gig and, you know, things go on and you go home and you kind of go, I wish I had said this, or I wish I had have, you know, stood my ground on that. I wish I had said that that made me uncomfortable, you know. But again, I've never been in a situation where I couldn't say it to the boys in my band. If I felt like I couldn't say something, you can be damn sure they'd say it. And I will never, you know, I couldn't fault any of them. They, if anything, they'd call me like the Mammy Claire, I'd be like their leader. Do you know what I mean? I'm like the mammy or the big sister. Like, I'd ring them if I had a problem, they'd ring me if they had a problem, and we are all equals. So I have both sides of it, where I work with a band full of men who make me feel like I'm their equal, but I can go into a circumstance where I'm very much reminded I'm not. And sometimes like, again, to go back to what we had said, but the louder you get, the more they don't want to hear what you have to say. So, like, there's discrepancies for sure, and I'm still navigating them, and I'm still figuring out what is, and it sounds horrible, but what's in my head and what's real, and, you know, what is how I actually feel about the circumstance. Like, do I find it funny, you know, for that to be made a joke, or like, should I find it funny? You know, like, that's the other side of it, is like, you know, if I laugh at it, I kind of feel guilty for laughing at it and thinking it's funny. And if I don't laugh at it, then I kind of feel like I'm the dry shite who didn't laugh at the joke, you know? Like, so you're constantly in a state of that.
Yeah, finding the
Again,
balance.
long-winded.
No, it's perfect because I'm really interested in that myself, right? So for loads of different reasons, I'm finding it very difficult. But it's like, if I was a boy, I could sleep around and no one would even question how I got to where I was, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm a woman in the industry, I can't even consider having a relationship or a romantic interlude with any of the men that I see, because everyone would just assume that the only reason I got to where I was because I was seeing so and so.
Yeah.
So my intellect or my ability never really gets looked at. You just see what you see with a woman, whereas with a man, so much more attention is paid to these other sides of them.
I like to be, that's such a fair comment. It's like I was saying though, it's like you don't find that the male artists get asked those questions. Like, the fact that we even can sit here and have this conversation about it is a prime example of its existence. You know, like, again, you're like, I'm afraid to say certain things because I am still figuring out how I feel about it. Like, and it's not that I don't want to be honest about how I feel, it's that I still don't know, you know, how I actually feel about it. Like, I think it's disgusting that there's a sense of inequality and that even exists for us to be sitting here and talking about it. But with my own, I think sometimes I'm a very naive person and I want to believe the best in people. And I think that sometimes that's what hinders me. It's the whole people pleasing thing again. Like, it's that I don't want the men that I've worked with in the past to think that I'm singling anybody out, but it is something that exists, and it is something that I feel like men need to be aware of. Like, it's not that I think that anybody is being malicious when they bring up this stuff. Like, some people I think are genuinely trying to make me more comfortable. But it comes back to the fact that if I was male, it wouldn't even be a suggestion. That should just be the thought process. If you wouldn't say it to a man, don't say it to a woman, because there's no need. Like, you are like I said, sometimes I feel like I consciously make myself unpretty. Like, I'm so conscious of being the dangly pretty thing in front of the band that I consciously try and make myself unpretty so that I'm not going to be that person. But then am I closing myself off to like that sexual side of myself where I want to be free and I want to put myself out there? Do I even want to do that? Why do I have to even question it? You know, like, it for me, my frustration and my anger comes down to it even being a conversation. I feel like by talking about it, I'm part of it. Whereas, like, I don't want to be part of it. For me, I'm equal. For me, I'm good. Like, and if you don't want to see me as equal, then you're not my kind of people. I don't mean you, obviously, the collective you. But if somebody doesn't see me as equal, it's like, that's fine. I don't need to convince myself that I am your equal. I know who I am. I have my strength. I will roar. And if I'm too loud for you, I'm sorry, don't listen. Like, and I feel like everybody, male and female, should be allowed to be that person. Like, everybody should be like, I am who I am, I feel how I feel, I should be allowed to say it how I say it. You know, it's like the whole you're overreacting. I hate that. I hate that, because there's no such thing. There is only a reaction, and somebody is allowed to react however they feel necessary. Like, yes, you can get wound up that the instant reaction might seem excessive, but underneath it, it's just hurt, you know. And I think that we seek so often to be understood that we forget that we need to understand. And I feel like that's the main thing with this whole female in the industry. It's like, I find that women, for me anyway, and for a lot of the women that I've worked with in this industry, we put ourselves in a position where we understand where they're coming from, where a man may be coming from, and why they are the way they are, why they think it's appropriate, or, you know, we allow for these nuances. Whereas I feel like it's not given the opposite way. We're not being understood, and people aren't seeking to understand. We're either emotional, shrill, you know, standoffish, we're a bitch, we're too loud, we're always too something. Like, that's what I have found. No matter where I've gone, I am always too something. And to be honest, I'm just me. Like, I'm sorry I'm too much Claire, but that's it is what it is. Like,
Yeah, no, that was really, really well put. I don't think I could have put it that well myself. So that's perfect. I like to say now,
sorry.
when people tell me I'm too much, they're just not enough.
Yeah, there's no such thing. There's just no such thing as too much. Like, you are you. Like who get like. I'm sorry. Like, I can't stand that. I can't stand that anybody. And look, I'm guilty of it myself. I'm not saying I float above everybody else, like, at all. But I just think, like, who are we as humans to think that we have any say over anybody else's life, or that we could have the right to judge somebody else for living their life a certain way? At the end of the day, we are all the center of our own universes. We can only perceive the world the way that we see it. So for us to try and force somebody to see it the way that we see it, it's impossible. They're now, like, they are the center of their own universe. They are a product of their own experiences. It's just whether or not they want to take responsibility for it.
Yeah, no, that was all very perfect, Claire. Thank you. Is there anything you want to add to the interview before I stop recording?
I don't think that I am a big life guru, and a PSA, don't follow my life experiences. I am just a person trying to get from one day to the next, and I enjoy rambling down cameras. That's all I'll say. And this is hand sanitizer because I have been coughing into my hands. That's just my PSA at the end there.
Yeah, keep those hands sanitized, dudes. Thank you so much, Claire. So obviously, Local Promotions is your company and Lipton Village is your band. Everyone should check those out. Anyone who's watched this video because they're into either of those two things and Claire's awesomeness, please feel free to subscribe to the Viking Promotions page and follow Creative Cabin Fever, because I think 47 more interviews to come.
There, and it's awesome. You should subscribe.
Thanks. So I'll stop recording now, Claire. Thank you.